With 3 weeks to go to the UCI Gravel World Championships in Northern Europe, I have come to the much sunnier and warmer climes of Southern Europe, Girona in Spain. And today, I'm a Dan with a plan. I've managed to persuade the GCN powers that be that this would be the perfect preparation for the big day. It's just a coincidence that it will also extend my summer, just as the weather's taken a turn for the worse in the UK. On top of the better weather, I've come up with an ingenious race strategy to make this event a huge personal morale boost, whilst also getting some tips from a recent UCI Gravel World Champion. To make things even more interesting, I'm up against 4 other GCN presenters. Alain from Italy, Patrick and Lauren from Germany, and Louis from France. All of them are younger than me, but with varying degrees of off-road experience. What's the event? Well, it's the last round of the UCI Gravel World Series at Sea Otter Europe in Girona, Spain. This year's event is a little shorter than last year's at just over 100 kilometres, but that's where the good news ends, because they've added an extra climb, bringing the total to over 2,000 metres of elevation gain. There's a massive climb near the start, a double punch in the middle, and a really long but steadier climb about 2/3 of the way through. The route is a mixture of gravel roads, obviously, but there are also some fairly rocky climbs, technical descents, and a smattering of tarmac too. Everyone also says how amazing the gravel rides are around Girona, so I'm looking forward to riding them. The problem is, I'm not just riding them, I'm racing them. And it can be quite hard to enjoy the sights and sounds around you when your legs and lungs are burning and your heart rate is through the roof. So that is why I've come up with a cunning plan. Today, I'm going to be employing a negative split. This is something normally reserved for the world's best time trial riders like Filippo Ganna. We can all do it, we just don't. For those of you who've never heard of a negative split, or just don't know what it is, it's where you ride at a higher power output in the second half of your race than the first. Done well, this can result in a faster time, but I'm just hoping to have a better time, if you know what I mean. So whilst everybody else is breathing out of their bum by the top of that first climb, I should be well within myself. And then in the second half of the race, the theory is I should be flying past riders so quickly they think I'm on a de-restricted e-bike. You could call it the mullet strategy. Business at the front, party at the back. About 5 minutes to go to the start, and I've got to say, my adrenaline is already pumping. I think it's going to take some serious discipline not to go fast at the start, especially for a speed demon like myself, of course. Just before we get going, though, I'm going to rewind slightly, because yesterday I was fortunate enough to get to ride with former World Gravel Champion Matej Mohoric and his teammate who won this race last year, Matevz Govekar. Were they like this the whole way? Yeah. Yeah? Always. Hey. That's how he does it. Yeah. A little bit faster than what I'm going to be going tomorrow. I'm here with 2 riders who are pretty good on gravel. We've got former world champion Matej Mohoric and the guy that won this race last year, Matevz Govekar. I'd like your advice for tomorrow. I'm not as fit as I used to be. How would you go about it if you were me in my age category?
I think you're going to enjoy yourself. Don't waste all your bullets from the start on the steep climb there. And I think, after you find your group, then when you're turning, it's a pretty nice course.
You know the course very well. You didn't do it last year, Matej, did you, after you crashed the day before? What's it like out there?
It's super fun. I would suggest you that pace yourself on the climb, but then absolutely smash it on the downhill. This way you can recover, and other guys have a problem and they need to catch you up.
Well, you've got a background in mountain biking, and I was fortunate to ride with you guys for a few kilometres on your recon. It felt really hard uphill and also really hard downhill to keep up with you guys. Were you going at race pace?
Yeah, very, very close to the race pace, but still we were a bit cautious. But somehow I still managed to crash. And tomorrow, no crashing. And but yeah, we went a really good pace. Yeah.
And how are you after the crash?
No problem. I'm like new, better.
Can I ask you what you think you might average in tomorrow's race?
Last year I did something like 310 average power, but I hope I do more now because this year Matej is also in the race and I need to follow him, so for sure 30 watts more I have to do.
Your power?
I think I'm going to go for a... What did you say your split was, negative or positive?
Negative.
So I'm going to go for a positive split because I think in gravel, the hardest part is the start because you need to fight with almost everyone. And then after that first climb, I think it's going to be whittled down to not very many riders anymore. Also because that first descent is quite technical. And I think with the dust being quite strong this year because it didn't rain in a while here, it will be quite important to be as much towards the front as possible. If not, you don't see the stones and the obstacles. So I'm going to go as hard as I can on that first climb, and then probably overall, I will end up averaging between, 330, 340 watts. And then, but that first climb, I need to do well over probably more than 450 watts for that first bit.
Christ, that is a lot of power. Well, I won't be seeing you at the start then. I'll be seeing you maybe at the finish if you hang around long enough at the end.
I was really relaxed at the start because of the strategy of a negative split. I did change my strategy immediately after the start though, because there's about 2 kilometres of road, and I thought there's no point in just pacing from here. I might as well just go with the pack and try and move up some positions, and then I'll start my strategy on the first climb. I hit the climb, and I tried to go into this pacing strategy of sort of keeping 280 watts. I hadn't reconned the climb, and it was so steep that just to get up it really required more than that. So I was already doing more power than I probably should have been doing at the start. Nevertheless, I was still going backwards. Loads of people were overtaking me on that first climb. But it was already really hot at that time in the morning, and I was sweating so much going towards the top. By the top, I thought, well, I've done all right here. Like, I think I can still do the strategy of finishing with more power than I've started with.
So the first climb is done. I'm on like a little kicker that comes just after it. Higher power on that climb than I was planning, but I sort of had no choice. It was so bloody steep. I didn't have the right gearing on to be able to go any easier if I wanted to carry on riding. Anyway, I think I am enjoying the beauty of Girona's roads at the moment, gravel roads. I am quite out of breath as well. I'll check back in with you soon.
So sometimes I have to tell myself, right, just stick to the plan. Like, you don't have to hold the wheel if it's too hard. Just look at your power and keep to that. Gracias. Cheers. What did catch me out was the first descent. I don't know why. I don't know who it was that told me that the gravel roads are smoother in Girona, but they were either deliberately lying or they didn't know what they were talking about, because it was like a really gnarly descent. And again, you sort of think it's a race, I need to go, push towards the limit. But immediately I just started seeing so many riders who crash, a couple like really badly. I saw this one guy coming up and I don't even want to describe what his arm looked like. It looked really bad, and he looked like he was in a lot of pain.
Now, you may have noticed by this point that the bike I'm using today is quite similar to the one I used at the Gnarly back in May, but there are a couple of key differences. I would talk you through it now, but I am a bit out of breath despite my pacing strategy. But here's one I prepared earlier. Over to you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. At this point, I've basically got full ownership of a bike that Alex Payton used to call his own. This is a Canyon Grail CFR. Now, the first big change to the setup that I had for the Grallic event up in Scotland is that I've removed the suspension forks and replaced them with the original rigid ones. I've heard that the descents here are far less rocky than they were in Scotland, and I'm going to save some key weight for the extra climbing here. The other key difference are the wheels. I've got some brand new hoops courtesy of Vision. These are their SC48, part of their Service course range, which are high-performance carbon wheel sets at a competitive price point. They've got a 48mm aero profile and then a 25mm internal hooked channel, which has been optimised for wider tyres. So perfect for gravel, but these are also made for use on the road as well. Both wheels have 24 bladed spokes in a 2-to-1 cross-laced pattern. They're laced 2 straight pull hubs. The rear hub here is a V200, but the free hub has been redesigned. Vision say it's going to be more reliable and also easier to maintain. The 48mm depth was designed to balance weight with performance and aerodynamics. Speaking of which, they come in at 1,590 grams for the pair. For the rest, I've got my trusty Wahoo Element Roam V3 at the front, in which I've plugged the GPX, so I know where all the big climbs are coming. I've also got a power meter, of course, so that I know I'm doing that negative split. And the tyres I'm running today are Pirelli's Cinturato in a size 40mm. You might be wondering what this is. It is actually a number on the other side. I think I might have put it on the wrong way round. I'll check later on before the race. And just finally, if you're wondering why it's a bit dusty, that's from the recon ride with Govekar and Mohoric earlier on, where I sort of kept up with them on the descents. Not really, as you saw. And the second major climb was like a really steep, small descent, and then really steep again. And when I say really steep...
This is f***ing horrific. Jesus. So I'm coming towards the top of the second climb, the mid one, like a double punch. And my God, it's steep. The last part was unbelievable. I reckon I was doing like 5 k's an hour. Not sure how well this negative split is going. Anyway, back to it.
I considered using road shoes and pedals, and there was a point today where I was like, well, I'm glad I didn't, because I might have to get off and walk here. A lot of people were walking on some of those climbs. It was just, honestly, it was so steep.
Jesus Christ.
I died 1,000 deaths over the top. I don't know what happened. I genuinely wanted to do a negative split today, and I genuinely thought at the top of the first climb I was going to achieve that goal. And over the top of the second climb, I died so much. I couldn't have been much further away from doing a negative split.
Yeah, that's it. The camel backwards. Oh my God, I'm really just going to try and enjoy the rest of the race.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Go for it.
Whoever told me that it wasn't as rocky in Girona as it is at the Grallic was lying through their teeth. Well, this guy just came flying past me.
They were lying, whoever they were.
Oh,
Seek your revenge.
the descents are so difficult, like properly rocky. And I just mentally cracked because I saw a sign that said 50 k's, which is halfway by distance. And if I'm being completely honest, I feel pretty shattered already. I sort of need to make a new plan, actually. I just really want to enjoy the last bit and not think too much about it.
I'm just not at a fitness level to be able to implement tips from World Tour pros, I don't think. I mean, obviously they had to go so hard at the start anyway to make sure that, you can see why, like they need to be out of traffic and being able to pick their own line, so. Yeah, I'd like to see from a motorbike or something what it's like at the front of a gravel race amongst those riders, because, yeah, got to give it to them. I take my hat off to them.
I'm really suffering. Yeah, I just haven't got the legs that I thought I might have, and the heat, I think, is taking its toll. Yeah, a lot of excuses. Reality is, I just don't have the legs. So I'm going to enjoy the last part as much as I can without pushing over my limits or too deep.
Like on the last climb of the day, it was a much longer drag, the last big one. And I was struggling to go over 200 watts by that point. And I actually stopped.
I've actually stopped at the feed zone for 5 minutes just to recover a little bit. I think I'm really overheating. I've just had a load of isotonic drink and I've got a bottle of water and a bottle of Coke to get me through the last 34 Ks. I'm only 2/3 of the way through. Better crack on.
Waking up in despair.
Oh my God, I am in a world of pain. I cannot wait to get to the finish. Over and out. I will need Coke and water at the finish, please. I'm absolutely f***ed.
Watch the flames spread like a meme. I'd rather it when you
Bloody hell. That was unbelievable. I suffered so much. Oh God. I don't think I've ever been as pleased to get to the top of a climb or to get to the finish line in my life.
Glad it's not just me. Do you mind if I do a selfie?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cheers.
What's your name, sorry?
Steve.
So, Steve, on the way in, really made me laugh because we came off like this bit where we were segregated from the road and crossed it. Just when we got off there, there was like 2 meters of tape that funneled you through, but it didn't go anywhere, but Steve went through it. I don't know what, it reminded me of one of those bike paths in the UK that lasts for 2 meters that there's absolutely no points to. I said, maybe you won, Steve, maybe you're the only person that's actually completed today's course. Well, I'll debrief with you shortly, but it's almost laughable how far away I was from a negative split today.
I feel like I'm over-egging this, but even now, 2 hours after the finish, I've really, really suffered. So this strategy that was meant to improve my morale ahead of the World Championships in 3 weeks' time, it's kind of dented it a bit. It's not too badly, but I don't know if I was expecting too much given my current fitness. But it felt way harder than the Gralec, where I didn't try and do a negative split, but I paced it perfectly and I was flying past people at the end. And it also felt way harder than the 350k charity ride that I did. Today's 100 kilometers felt like forever. So how did the other presenters get on? Well, all of them beat me, at least those that finished. Lauren was about 15 minutes quicker than me. He too suffered like a good one. Louis, also competing in his first gravel race, fared slightly better, half an hour quicker than me, whilst Patrick absolutely smashed it. He finished 77th quickest on the day, just half an hour behind the winner. However, it was Alain who had the best idea. He got 2 punctures in the first hour and decided to call it a day. Now that is a man with a plan. How exactly did my negative split go? 257 watts on the first climb, 250 watts on the second climb, not including the downhill in the middle, and then 207 watts on the last long climb. For the final 20 minutes, I averaged 145 watts, and it was amongst the hardest 20 minutes I've ever had on a bike. Negative splits, ladies and gentlemen. They're easier to talk about than to do. So with 3 weeks to go to the World Championships, there's only so much I can do, right? I've got 2 weeks of proper training that I can do, and then I'll need to taper off for the last week going into those Worlds. So not a huge amount is going to change between now and then, I don't think. One change though is going to be that I think the course is going to be completely different. I think in theory the shorter, sharper climbs are going to suit me a lot more, but at the same time I haven't seen the course yet, but I think it's much longer. I think it's like 160 Ks maybe. Pacing will be crucial once again. No, I'm gonna reset after this and I'll come up with a plan for the Worlds and see how I get on. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I think I will have enjoyed the race in a couple of days' time when I look back. It's a bit too fresh in my mind at the moment. Thanks to Vision for lending me their new wheels today. They performed flawlessly throughout, so that was good. And I'll see you again at the World Championships in a couple of weeks' time. If you've got any tips for me for the World Championships, please leave them in the comments below. And if you race the Sea Otter in Girona today with me, Let me know if you found it as tough as I did. I'd be interested to hear. See you all soon.